Hello, darlings. So, what we're going to do very briefly here is go over the Furality Aqua shader. Now, I'm not any kind of expert on this shader. It's just going to be a very quick. This is how you could set it up. You can play with it and do whatever else you like with it, but this should at least get you started. So, what we've got is our boy sitting here with a nice plain white texture because he doesn't have a material yet. We've also got our standard textures already kind of popped in here. I've also got my normal in here as well. It's the same thing. I've also got the emission mask that we made before, and another one which I'll show you a bit later. But for the time being, what we're going to need to do is create a material for him. So we're going to right-click down here in the project. I've got Unity set up pretty much how most people do. I've put my game window over here just to keep that separate from the scene window, but otherwise it's about the same with the hierarchy on the left. This is where your model sits. You've got the inspector on the right, which is where you set your settings, and your project files down at the bottom. So in my folder, materials and textures, I'm just going to right click and create a new material. We're going to call this Aqua Matte, and then drag and drop it onto your avatar in the scene view. Now it's not going to do anything because this is still just a white blank material. The next thing we're going to do, presuming that you've already installed the Furality Unity package, you should have this folder with the shaders and everything else in there too. So we're going to take our material that we've just created over in the inspector. Under shader, we're going to drop that down to Furality Aqua shader. And it's kind of gone off screen, but we're going to select the first one, which is Aqua shader. Let me see if I can. You know what? I'll just do this for the time being. Standard Furality Aqua shader. Now there's a couple of different ones depending on how your avatar is set up. If you've got like transparency, like fur cards, or you've got like transparent clothes or something, you might want to select that one. But for the time being, we're just going to select the Aqua shader, which is just the basic version. So now that we've got our material set up with the Aqua shader on, we're going to want to put all of our normal standard textures in that we normally use for our avatar. So I'm just going to grab my main albedo texture, drop that onto the main texture here, and you'll see he gets his colors and whatnot. I'm also just going to drop the normal map onto the normal map slot, and he'll get his fur texture as well there. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to check this box up here to show the advanced settings. It adds a few extra bits like smoothness and all that good stuff. For the purposes of this, I'm just going to leave it as the default settings, whatever it comes in as. There isn't a whole lot more that you need to do on the main settings, except this is just where you set your normal kind of, your avatar's texture. So we're going to move over to here, and we're going to select I'll show you the lighting settings. This is if you prefer more of a toony look. It'll give you the hard shadows, and you can tweak all that stuff down here. Not really what this video is about, so we're going to hop over onto the Luma glow settings. Now, down here I think is what is confusing most people. This emission section here, this whole section here, is basically for anything that you want to glow all the time. You can set things like, if you just want your eyes to glow red or something all the time, not sound reactive or anything, then you can set it in there. So, for example, I'll take the emission mask that we put in. We're going to enable emission first to get us our slot, and we're going to drop that into there. Now, nothing's showing up, obviously, because we've got it set to black. And And the way you need to think of this is black will block any kind of glow effects. And if you click on that and then set it to white, it'll allow any glow effects to come through. So you'll be able to see everything that's coming through. So we'll close that. So it's now set to white. Anything that's black will be effectively transparent because it's blocking. Imagine your avatar is like a light bulb, and you're either using black to stop any light from coming out of it, or white, or say call it transparent, will let any light out. So it's like holding different color filters over the top of a light bulb. Similarly, if you change that filter to like a red filter, it'll only let the red light out, if that makes any sense. Now, this obviously is, you can see that it's just like a full bright white. It's not really kind of glowing as such. It will just be like in the shade and in the darkness and in shadows and stuff. That will remain just full white bright. What you'll probably also want to do is down, if you click on that again, you have an intensity slider down here. And if you want it to really kind of glow, like in some worlds they'll have like a bloom filter set. And when it's just on 0 and a flat white like this, it won't actually have that kind of halo haze around it that makes it look like it's glowing. So you'll probably want to set this to like 2 or 3. 3 is a bit bright. You can see that it really looks kind of awful. That's also partly due to the crappy texture that I made in a previous video, so don't pay too much attention to that. The fact that it looks crappy. It'll I managed to turn it up to 23. Let's actually set that to 3, so it's a bit more reasonable. You can see it's still a crappy texture. It's got like the blocky pixelation around the outside, but for the time being, let's just ignore that one. Try setting it to 2 to begin with, and if you want some more glow, set it to a bit more, maybe 3. But that'll ensure that everything looks bright and, you know, it'll glow with that halo effect around it when you're in a world that supports that. So this is basically how you apply your mask for like just a flat glow that doesn't actually do anything. Now, that's no fun. The reason why we're using the Furality Aqua shader is because we want it to be like sound reactive, right? So I'm just going to take that out there, turn emission off again. So what you're going to want to do then is come down here to glow mask settings. Now this is where we actually set the audio reactive parts of our mask. For the majority of people, if you want to just keep it super simple, you're going to want to take your mask, and drop that into the glow mask. Now, I'll go into the red, green and blue channels in a bit, but if you just want to get it set up, you've got your mask on there. You can't see anything at the moment because you're going to need to set the red channel glow to white. It's the same as the emission one. And that'll ensure that whatever comes through, sound reactive wise, will come through here. Now it looks white in Unity, but when you're actually in the world, what it's doing is it's sending a bunch of different, flashing colours and effects and stuff through that through the red channel, and you want to make sure that you see all those colours, so you want to make it white. So if they send red, it will come through as red, and if it sends through as blue, it will come through as blue, because white lets all different spectrums of light through. The next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to enable zones. One of the gradients we found last time is the better option. The zones, I don't think they really used since like Heroes and Villains, whereby if you went into what you could have done is set like the same mask on zone 1, zone 2, and if you went into a hero world, you'd be blue, or if you went into like a villain world, you'd be red, or something along those lines. But if you just want to get it set up nice and quick, just choose one of the gradients. Gradient 1 is fine. Audio reactivity, blinks, low blinks and high blinks, high pulse, low pulse. That's basically what of the sound it's going to be listening to. So if you say like low blink, whenever there's a bass drum or bass note or something like that, it's gonna just kind of flash. It's what you'd kind of consider like a light flash. The same with a high blink is going to be like if there's any kind of, you know, treble, cymbals, that kind of stuff. When they hit, that will just flash as well. Pulse is more of a slower effect, so it kind of like it's like the light equivalent of like a whoop whoop whoop. It's a smoother effect rather than like a bright like a flash. It will be a pulse, just as it suggests. High pulse, low pulse. So kick drums and bass and cymbals and hi-hats and whatnot. Usually, like a low pulse is good for that. Now you'll see it's already changed. The actual mask that we've put on has changed. What we want to do is actually see what that kind of looks like. So if you scroll right down to the bottom of the shader, you'll see that there's a debug mode at the bottom down here. Now what that's going to do is that's going to emulate some sound going through the shader. And what you'll want to do is put it into play mode, put Unity into play mode first, and then enable debug mode. And you'll see it's kind of doing the flashing thing. So imagine like it's going jump, 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 jump. You'll see what it's kind of doing there. You can probably see it better on the back. That's a pulse, low blink. Slightly different, seems to be a bit brighter. But that is basically all you really need to do to set up a basic kind of mask and have it audio reactive. So what we'll do now is we'll get into the rest of these, the red, green and blue channels. It's like, well, why, you know, if this is a red channel, why are we just choosing white? It's like, well, that's going to let all of the light through. So we're only just using one channel. What you're probably really going to want to do is work it like this. So also, very important thing to remember as well is when you're finished and you want to upload your avatar, make sure this debug menu is unchecked. Uncheck this debug menu, otherwise it's just going to be doing this in world and it's not going to be reacting to the sound at all. So let's stop play. Let's turn debug off so we can see what we're doing again. Now, this is where it gets a little bit confusing because we're going to go into the rest of the channels. Like, for the majority of people, if you just want a basic glow mask and everything else, this is all you need. So you've got your mask, you've got your patterns which you drew on there or however it came. Set the red channel to white, enable the zones, gradient 1, lows blink, you'll be golden. You'll be nice and flashy all over the place. But we can obviously go a bit deeper. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch out this mask here for a slightly different one. So what you're going to see now on his chest, I don't know whether you can really see it very well, but on his chest it says white all, red only, and red and blue down there. Now, what you've got to do is think of these red channels, green channels, and blue channels not being like the colours red, green, and blue. Think of them as just like actual channels. So like the I'll show you what this. If we, I'm actually going to turn the glow mask off for a second. What I'll do is I'll show you what this main settings. So this is the mask that I've made before, where it says white all, red only, blue only, red and blue. Now, in light theory, when you're, like I said before, when you're putting like a red filter in front of a white light, it'll only let red light through, right? And the same goes for blue. And if you put in a magenta filter, because magenta is made up of red and blue, it will let any red light through and any blue light through that you put through it. And it will block any of the green. So this is what we're going to be using this mask for, is just so I can show you these effects. Now, I'm going to pop... No, you know what? Actually, I can leave it. No, I'm not going to leave it. I'm going to put my main texture back on, and we're going to head back to the Luma glow settings. So down here, anything that's on your mask, so you saw that this mask was not black and white like, you know, the previous kind of like emission mask was. It's actually got colour information in it as well. So it's got the white across the top, it's got the red, blue, and magenta. Now the reason for that is when we pop our glow mask in here, and if we look at the red channel, and we set red to red, now what it's going to do is it's only going to let... It's kind of hard to see, actually. Let me change this to make it a little bit easier. Let's get rid of my texture and set myself to black. There we go. Okay, so in the red channel, anything in your mask that's red will come through on this channel. So white obviously lets red through, red lets red through, and the magenta lets red through too. So everything looks red. Now, in the actual world, it's not going to be just red. It's going to be, you know, flashing whichever colours the world is going to be giving you. All the red channel does is it allows any red that's in your emission mask through on this channel, if that makes sense. So we can say, okay, the world is going to be sending this yellowy green colour. The emission mask looks like this. So anything that's got red in it, so white, red and magenta, will come through as yellow. Does that make sense? I know it's a little bit difficult to wrap your head around, but you can think of it like this. So the red channel lets red from your emission mask through and colours it appropriately. Now, similarly, we can go down here. I'm actually going to turn that off for a second. In the green channel, we can do the same thing. So let's say green. Now the only colour information in our emission mask that's going to let green through is the white, because the other one was red, it was blue, and then it was red and blue. So the only one that comes through is on the white channel. And again, this can be any colour the world wants to send to it. It can be red. But the only part of the mask that it's going to let through is the green part of your mask. And similarly, exactly the same with the blue channel. So we can set blue to be red. So anything that's blue in your mask will come through on here instead. So white lets everything through. Blue only lets only the blue channel through, and red and blue, and magenta lets red and blue through. I'm hoping I've explained that well enough. So yeah, so the colour could quite easily be white. Now we're on the blue channel, so it's only letting anything that's blue through. It's kind of difficult to wrap your head around, but it does mean that you can do things like let's set the blue channel to blue, just to keep it uniform, and the red channel we're going to set to red. Now the white part of the mask is obviously letting red and blue through, so it's going to appear magenta. So the colours actually stack on top of each other. If you're using white, it'll actually stack. The red is obviously only going to come through on the red channel, the blue is only going to come on the blue channel, and magenta is going to be both red and blue. So what we can do here is we can set, for example, anything that's coming through on the red channel, we're going to set gradient 1 on a low blink, and anything on the blue channel we're going to set gradient 3 on a high blink. So now what's going to happen is anything that's red is going to pulse in time with the base, and anything that's going to be, that's blue on your mask is going to come through as the treble. So if you've got like a, it's going to be swapping backwards and forwards between the red and the red and the blue channels. I don't know whether it's going to show up very well, because it doesn't. This debug mode doesn't really show you the effect well enough. You need to go to somewhere like the luminescent ledge to actually visualize it properly. But you can kind of see that it's swapping between the red and the blue channels depending on what it's sending. I'm hoping that makes any kind of sense. It's kind of tricky to explain, but don't think of them as the red channel as being just for red. It can be literally any colour, so we can send... The world is probably going to be sending like green through that one, and let's say red through the blue channel. And you're going to get some, you know, odd colours and whatnot. But that's basically it for this stuff. Red channel, blue channel. Oh, that's yellow. But hopefully that kind of gives you a better idea of how these work, if I've explained it well enough. I'm just going to turn that off for the time being. The only other things, really, that you're probably going to want to play around with is over in the effects settings. You got some nice sparkles. Not entirely sure how these work exactly, because that should be showing some kind of sparkles already. Maybe if I put my main texture back on. Oh, yeah, that's because I did that. Maybe? No? The rest of the stuff, I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. Have a play around with them. I thought the sparkles would just work. Or it could be, you know, no, we don't have an effect mask on it, so it shouldn't be masking anything. I've managed to get the sparkles working on my other avatar, but I couldn't tell you exactly what I did to make them work. But something's not quite right here. But the main point of the video was just to set up the Luma glow settings. So all the audio reactive, flashy stuff that most people want. There are other options. In the effect settings, you can... We don't know what the Luma Aura is yet, or the Luma Flow is yet. Flow, I think, has some kind of like wavy effect on it, and Aura, I have no idea what that is yet. You can also, let's see, yeah, there's the sparkles. Anything else worthy of note? The direction map, couldn't tell you exactly what that is either. The only thing I really know much about is the Luma Glow stuff. But hopefully that's kind of helpful. I know the red, green and blue channels is kind of a bit tricky to wrap your head around, but it's more a case of what you're allowing through on the emission mask using colours. So hopefully that's helped somebody. And yeah, enjoy. Have a good one.